Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Video Mail for the week of January 27th, 2014. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old. The Ask Video Mail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your questions if I'm going to answer them, right? So please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question at all in the universe. And it is the best way to get the most out of the site. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be here. I cannot tell you. I can tell you. It is like this much. Let me try to get it in the full widescreen. Here we go. Okay, that much. I'm always stoked after I finish an obstacle race. This was on Sunday. I did another Spartan sprint in Temecula, 4 miles, I think 15 obstacles, something like that. Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, I'm super proud of these. I have a ton of fun when I do it. That's what this month's article is going to be on. It's going to be on, well, you'll have to just read it and see. There is seriously so much hanging in the balance, and I know I keep on teasing you guys with that kind of stuff, but just cross your fingers for me. Send me positive vibes. I need it all this month because I'm going through a little bit of a mayhem with my house right now. I won't go into details, but I need some positive vibes. Also, Little Painter is going full steam. If you watch the Little Painter, if you have access to the production blog, log in because there's dailies going on and we're showing off work. It's really, really, really cool. I'll do a public update probably like once a week. I'll do one tomorrow and you can see it on the site. But yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, it's just so awesome and just rad to be working on it. And here's my thank you board, all the names that are on there, every single person. So there's a lot to be thankful for. So I don't know, take a second at the beginning of a video mail every once in a while. Come on, you just let me say thank you. Thank you, guys. What should we do? We should look at the question. It's a goodie. Check it out. That is a great question. Fantastic question. I'm going to tell you a few stories, a few anecdotes from production that might answer this for you, and then I'll show you a little bit in Maya. First shot that I got on King Kong actually had some retimed animation on it. The entire scene had been laid out, and there was basically the whole layout was supposed to be, one thing, and then Peter Jackson made some changes, and then the layout animator changed it a little bit, and then added some groups and moved things around and like retimed all this stuff. Anyway, by the time we got this sequence, well, what ended up happening was this animator wasn't able to work on the entire sequence. They were actually going to give this entire sequence, like 25 shots, to this one animator, and that was going to be everything he did on the entire film, like his one sequence, his baby. And he blew out his wrist with carpal tunnel doing the layout. And so then we all had to work on it. Anyway, point being, he did it all for himself, and because he was doing it all for himself, there was a lot of confusing locators and groups and timing in the layout. So it was filled with decimal places. There is, to answer the question kind of simply, there's absolutely no need to key things on decimal values. Absolutely none at all. So it is, yes, bad workflow to key things on decimal frames. However, it's also not good workflow if there are retiming, or if you're doing retiming and keys end up on decimal frames, that you have absolutely no recourse but to snap the keys and then fix all of that animation. So in other words, you do not want to be keying on decimal frames, but decimal frames pop up a lot, and you should have a workflow for dealing with decimal frames so that you don't have to do a lot of work on above and beyond just animating when this comes up. You should know how to handle decimal frames, but don't avoid working with them, okay? And certainly don't explicitly key something on a decimal frame. Another good example is my contact lecture. If you watch the contact lecture, it's 90 minutes on just contact, and it has all to do with arcs. And so I'll summarize just a few of the points right now, and if this is interesting to you, if this piques your interest, maybe you can watch the contact lecture. So the idea is that if you want to grab something, let's grab my water bottle. Crap, I'm out. Okay, let's grab my water bottle. The number one thing that I see is the prop is sitting there, and then the animator will key the person like over here, like reaching for the water bottle, and then there'll be like a golden pose where the hand is like perfectly around it, but the prop hasn't moved. And what that does is that makes it so that the animation looks like you go like perfect dead stop into this prop that is, and like you can't even like slip a piece of paper in there. There's like not even like a molecule of space in between your hand and this prop, which is just staying still. And the entire animation, the whole scene, looks like it like comes to a stop, even with just the slightest amount of slow in to that contact pose. What I propose is that what actually occurs, and double bonus, what actually gives the audience a better idea of the weight of the object is your body moves on an arc through the object, and then the object is taken along for the ride. And normally, you want to key the arc of the motion through the object, and then whatever frame the object is picked up on, just have it get picked up. And normally that happens between frames, doesn't it? Okay, so if I want to pick this thing up, right, I'm just going to key my hand going like this, right, just through the object. And I'm going to make sure that my body, like all the body mechanics I'm doing, look great and basically, you know, sort of put on display the weight of the object that I'm picking up. This thing is very light, so the arc is not affected really at all, okay? In fact, this would have to be pretty darn heavy for the arc to be affected almost in any way. But the heavier it gets, the more it slows down, your hand slows down after it picks it up, right? So we put the prop back, the hand is on the exact same arc, and then lo and behold, there might be a frame here, a frame here, but then a frame here. And so what I don't do is I don't stop the hand to perfectly grab this thing. I keep the frame here, and on the frame here, I do a pose change on the hand, and I move the object into the hand so that the new frame is a frame here, and then a frame here. And in the decimal frames, if you watch it in the decimal frames, yes, it does get hit, okay? And if you wanted to get technical, you would say, okay, well, this is actually picking up on frame 26.5, but again, there's no reason for you to key it on frame 26.5 because only integer frames are rendered or displayed, okay? So let's jump into Mile real quick. I just wanted to show you a few of the other issues that kind of surround this one issue. Okay. So like I was saying, let's say we have a hand picking this up, right? I'm just going to have the hand basically go through, and I got to turn on the Euler filter already. Man, I'll tell you, blokes IK controls are nonsense in terms of how much they flip. Okay, so here's a frame. Now I didn't key this on the what do you call it, on the cup, because I wanted to hit the cup. I keyed it because I wanted to have basically a breakdown that is the hand moving on an arc, right? And I don't want this to be so stretched out. And let's overshoot it just a little bit. Okay. All right, so just through the cup. All right, so what frame is this actually hitting on? Right? 4. Let me do the finger pose as well. And then after the contact, we have the pose change. I don't need to do the thumb so much. Okay. Let me just group this so that I can move the object around a little bit. Okay. Within the group. So I just made this group just so that I can constrain it. Anyway, so here we go. Right? So I'm going to key this group, and then bam, on this frame, it's moved. So then I move the object into the hand. You see that? And then keyframe a constraint, parent, set a key, and let's turn it, set a key here as well. Turn it off. And then key this. Sorry about that. I'm never going to learn, so might as well not you know, even try, right? Let's see here. Is auto key on? That's weird. Key selected, key selected, key selected, and make this 1. Key selected, make this 1. Okay, is it all keyed? There we go. Okay, so here we go. You see that? So now it looks like he's actually picking up that cup. Now, what's the important thing to realize here with the decimal keyframes? Let's actually go and do playback by other. Speed is 0.25. Okay? All right. Actually, you know, play over frame, that's what we want. 0.25 here. It's confusing the way that works. This will actually play slow-mo, I believe. Oh, wait, no. No. Other. Sorry. 0.25. I had it right the first time, I think. There we go. Wait, that's not right. Play every frame, max playback. All right, it's just going too fast. How would we do this? All right, let's just do 0.1. I don't know if we're going to actually get this slow. Oh, there we go. So you see that? Now let's actually mark this occasion here. Let's go even slower. 0.01. Here we go. Now, that worked pretty darn well, considering I'm actually really surprised that, like, I had no idea that was going to do that. I'll be honest. Hey, when I you know, when I do something freaking awesome and like I did it on purpose, hey, you know, credit where credit's due. But when I have no idea that that was going to look that good, whatever, man. So anyway, here's the blend parent, right? So it gets picked up on frame 4.5, right? And right now the blend parent is the value is 0.506. You see that? So the point here is, you know, if you look at this and you're like, okay, well, I need to figure out, you know, what frame this is actually contacting on, then, yeah, I mean, you have your answer right here. You could set a key, and Maya will set a key on frame 4.5 for you. But you, like I said, you don't want to do that because that's really, really bad workflow. Here's what happens when stuff starts getting screwed up or stuff starts getting retimed. So I'm going to just do a region scale. And you'll notice that even though the region scale snaps, the range itself snaps to integer frames, the scaling that goes on inside does not. Okay? You see that? So now that I'm done with that, we have a lot of keyframes that are on integer keyframes. Now, the workflow that I like to use to access these keyframes is to use the period and comma keys, and they will actually work with the keyframes no matter where they are. The issue, though, that you come up with is if you try to snap things, 7.4, if you just do snap, it'll snap it to the nearest keyframe. So here on frame 7.4, it'll snap it to frame 7. And then back here on frame 5.8, or what's a better one? Well, you can't see because it's behind my face right now. There we go. On frame 5.8, okay, there's not that'll snap to 6 instead of 5, right? So you're actually getting retiming if you just snap things, okay? So you don't want to just snap things. That's no good. Okay, so working with them using the period and comma keys is very, very, very good to do. All right. Another thing that you can do instead of snapping is to manually bake the keys back onto integer frames. How do you do that? Well, here is a keyframe on frame 15.4. Now, does it really need to be on frame 15.4? Let's see how much. If I go on frame 16, or let's just do frame 15, right? If I go on frame 15 and hit S to set a key, let's do it on just the channels of the hand control, okay? And then I delete this one. Oops. There we go. And then delete this weird decimal key. Look what we have left. In fact, before I delete that and add that, let me do a buffer. Go show buffer curves, and using my move key. All right, here's the buffer. All right, now set a key, delete this one. Now look, it almost perfectly, I don't know why I'm showing results. It's almost perfectly matching the buffer curve. Right, so we lost almost nothing. You can do a automatic bake, but that puts keyframes on pretty much every single frame. Okay, so bad workflow to just do a snap because you're actually going to get things that are off. Especially if you have a lot of constraints and IK, FK switches going on, those are a huge pain in the butt. Especially if you have an FK and IK switch going on at the same time as a constraint, another huge pain in the butt. Even doing a small retiming to your animation, you just have this huge headache of trying to make sure that they all line up again. If you just go to, I think it's curve snap, no, sorry, edit snap. It will snap them, and you'll be in a lot of trouble, okay? With all of that retiming that you've done. I like this workflow of going to the key, Right, here's 20.2. Obviously, it should be on frame 20. I'm just going to hit set to set a key. Delete this, and as you can see, it's almost perfectly, back on that buffer curve. And if you want to just make a little bit of a tweak, like this, I'm sure this difference right here is negligible. So I'm sure we're not actually losing anything in that animation right there. Okay, so period and comma keys still work, still advisable and usable for working with decimal keyframes. Don't create decimal keyframes on purpose at all, but don't freak out when you see them either. You're going to get them when you retime stuff. I like to manually kind of bake things and don't snap, because you'll have retiming problems. Okay, it's also a pretty good idea to kind of proxy in the animation on like constrained objects until you have the timing approved by your director or supervisor. The reason is because, like I said, if you do a lot of retiming and you have, God forbid, like an FK-IK switch on an arm that picks up another prop, and that prop gets let go and then it goes back to IK or whatever, anything like that that's really super involved with switches and stuff like that, it's just such a waste of time to have to redo those. So I honestly sometimes do visibility switches where like he'll pick up an object. There's always that object in his hand, and he'll pick up an object and then when the hand goes kind of near it, I disappear this one by animating the visibility to 0, and then I turn on the one in his hand. And that's normally not good for visual effects or feature animation because of like rendering issues and things like motion blur and stuff like that, material IDs, all those things. But that's a good way to get around having to redo a lot of timing stuff when you are dealing with decimal frames. Okay, so to answer the question, do not create decimal keyframes, but develop your workflow and don't freak out when you see them. Have a plan for cleaning them up. Okay, and it doesn't involve snap. That's a fantastic question. Please send more questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. Remember, you get a free day added to your account every single question that you send in. There is no limit to the amount of free time you can get on this site. It's been a pleasure. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.